All coaching is over-coaching. One must see this through the eyes of the truth. Words are used in their colloquial meanings. Words are used according to the image that is most prevalent in one's mind when that word is uttered. Therefore, technically, in this particular context, one could call anything coaching. And generally, human beings will be disingenuous, and they will try to find exceptions. And they will try to find the most peripheral branch to grab and say, well, isn't X coaching? Isn't the fact that one even opens his mouth coaching? And that disingenuousness is for the unserious. It's from the unserious. Because the only point they are trying to get across is that coaching is necessary. So let me find the most broadest possible definition in order to refute this. And if in their own mind they manage to refute it, what has it done besides validate their own insincerity? So all things that I speak of are really only for about perhaps 4 people in the world, because human beings are fundamentally unserious and insincere. Therefore, they play word games, and they are here just for a showdown or some kind of debate. But what this means is that coaching, the very image that pops into one's head when one hears is do this and do that. Coaching, the very word to coach someone, is to tell him to do this and not to do that. The very essence of coaching is that. It is, the very word is pregnant with the meaning, to coach someone. The problem with coaching is that because it is only done in a prescriptive manner, and it cannot be otherwise, and the reason it cannot be otherwise in a practical sense is because human beings know nothing besides prescriptions. That's all the coach was taught to do. That's all he's going to know. The very fact that a coach who doesn't prescribe is ludicrous. Then why would he coach if he has nothing to prescribe? So everything is based upon prescribing. That isn't a rule that's being broken. The trouble with that is, the effect of that is that a human being's greatness can never be revealed by telling him to do this and not to do that. Because the thises and the that's that he is told to do and not to do are based upon tradition, are based upon prior experience, are based upon the coach's own experience. And every human being's experience is limited. Because every human being only lives one life. And in that one life, they only come across X content and number of people. In that one life, they only come across X content and number of concepts. Therefore, all that they know is their own belief and opinion, perhaps supported by some modicum of evidence that might have worked here or there. In other words, coaching is not truth. It is based upon limitations. Therefore, all things are dependent upon who the human being is and what he really wishes to achieve. And if he wishes to become a legend, there is no way that he can be coached into becoming one. Now, one may use the word legend in a very loose fashion, which often is done these days, since mediocrity is the order of the day, even in professional sports, and even at the highest levels of business. The degradation of all things towards mediocrity is commonplace. In fact, it is the prevalent state of affairs in society. So to coach someone fundamentally is to know what is best for them. And no human being knows what is best for another human being, even if they are experienced in that field. Once again, they are experienced. Their experience is limited by their experience. So they are not omniscient. Therefore, there's a cost, a very massive cost. So the very fact that all coaching is prescriptive, in that very moment, makes it a massive limitation. And since the very nature of coaching is to prescribe, one can only have his greatness coached out of him. Even if he manages to become great, the coaching does not make him great. He becomes great despite the coach. The question then becomes the question that is never asked, because people will say, well, wasn't so-and-so coached and he became great? The question that's never asked is, who could he have become if he was not coached? Human beings overcome, and they become despite education, not because of it. Therefore, nothing is right and nothing is wrong. And if questions are posed which say, well, isn't X coaching and isn't Y coaching? The only reason that question is asked is so that they in their mind can breathe a sigh of relief to say, okay, well, at least something can be coached. That's the only reason that question is being asked. It isn't a natural desire to learn what is truly being said, and nor should there be. You don't need to learn what is truly being said. This is for very few people. This is for the truly sincere who want to learn. Not because they should. It isn't good for you. It isn't proper. It isn't recommended. It is simply for a human being with a particular DNA. And then people will ask, well, isn't what you do coaching? The honest answer is I have no idea what it is that I do. And it isn't a good thing or a bad thing, but I don't really coach anyone. Once again, one could use it in the broadest sense and say, well, isn't that coaching? One could even say, isn't this talk coaching? So one can turn anything into anything. And therefore, it is for that reason that sincerity is of the utmost importance, because if it is not present, then it is just a empty question answer fiasco of the insincere playing word games because they don't have any interest in the topic, and they simply want to get past the word so that they can validate that coaching is in fact necessary, and let me breathe a sigh of relief and have coaching in a usable sentence where, I have found one instance in which coaching is valuable. So those questions will not be answered. No, I wouldn't tell them anything. If they feel that they receive something valuable from that, then they may. But I will say that where there's a group, there cannot be truth. Well, it depends what you mean by high-level performance. I mean, that's a very big term, but you see high-level performance happening, in many domains. But this is why one must discover where it is that he wishes to go from the outset, because high-level performance means nothing. So there's all kinds of performance going on at the highest level, in which there is zero truth. But it simply depends. But once again, when one sees that, the parity that exists in that culture is also evident. So the number of people who are legends these days are almost nil. And even legend can be subject to a definition. So essentially it's about achieving the ultimate height for a given human being, what is ultimately possible for a human being. And that is not possible through so-called coaching.
I've been sitting with the non-prescriptive approach that you do talk about and seeing, or at least exploring in my mind how I could show up with that, with my children. Any thoughts on that from you?
That's a good question. I think everything has its pitfalls, and the greatest pitfall with the truth about the ineffectiveness of prescriptions is that one tends to turn that into a prescription, and it really must be seen clearly that to prescribe isn't right or wrong, and to turn it into a rule is to miss the entire point. The real value in abstaining from prescriptions and ridding oneself of the path of prescriptions does not lie in forcefully doing so. It lies in seeing where the holes truly are for oneself. If one, in the example that you gave, prescribes to children, it doesn't work. And that isn't a unique situation. It doesn't work for anyone. If you can prescribe to an adult, and it won't work for them either. So I don't think it's about telling children or anybody else what to do. I think it really is about discovering what the truth about the situation is, as opposed to having an ulterior motive of this is the proper way to do it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Dr. Gupta. What an honor. I can't believe I'm actually talking to you. Here's my question, please. I wonder if meditation is the one exception to the guideline of no prescriptions.
No, meditation is a complete farce. Meditation has no meaning. It's irrelevant. Now, what must be understood is to never take my words for face value, because this is not about teaching you anything. It is, if you have the interest in looking behind the curtain, you may, and if you don't, then you don't. There's nothing to take home with you. If someone wishes to achieve some level of physiologic benefit, some level of temporary peace, or perhaps a divorcing oneself from some of the stressors of the day, one can meditate. And if that's what he seeks, which is what most people are seeking, then yes, it can be of benefit. But when one comes into my domain, what must be realized at the very precipice is that all the things that I talk about are from the standpoint of reaching the ultimate. All the things that I discuss are from the standpoint of truly arriving at the ultimate possibility of one's own life. And all things are viewed through that lens. They are not viewed through the lens of temporary benefit, temporary relief, a little bit of good for you-ness, a little bit of health makes me feel better. I don't view things in that way. I don't care. And quite frankly, in that sense, then a cup of coffee might do you good either. So it's all cosmetic. No one is out there meditating and becoming enlightened. Nobody. You may not wish to become enlightened. That's fine. But once again, mine is a very biased view, and it is biased because it is biased only towards the the tip of the mountain and nothing else. I can't say that for somebody else, but if one asks the question, is the only goalpost truth, one may wish to turn around and ask themselves that question. If it isn't truth, then all else is false. It will never work for you to coach yourself. And the reason it will not work for you is because you have to ask the question. So because you ask the question, can I coach myself? The answer is no. Because to you, it is only a concept. And the very fact that you need my permission or some answer which says, yes, you can coach yourself, you'll be miles and miles away from actually doing so. Human beings love words. They love to put a word on a pedestal and say, what do you think of vulnerability? What do you think of courage? What do you think of X? Oh yes, courage is very important. Oh, vulnerability is wonderful. Good for you. These things are useless. They have no meaning. You cannot isolate one word and then stick behind it and then wave the flag of the word. It's just a word. It means nothing. So it is your very question. It has an ulterior motive. You have an agenda and you come waving the flag of courage and you want support for that. And it's irrelevant. Don't come with words. I think it's largely cosmetic. Human beings are looking for a pat on the back. And I don't have much value for encouragement. A person who needs encouragement, I don't. Everything comes from the inside. Everything that gets a person to the mountaintop is self-driven. And to be honest, the person who climbs to the mountaintop, his whole life, he isn't encouraged. He's beaten down. He is trying to be torn off the mountain at every step. It's not encouragement. This is not a nice world. So there's no encouragement of anybody. If you feel like encouraging, do so. Nothing wrong with it. But to fall into the trap that it actually means something is, I think, irrelevant. What people want to do is irrelevant. At the end of the day, it's all about you.
The difference between coaching and leadership and management.
Yeah, it's all in the same sort of umbrella and category. People thinking they know what's best for another and prescribing how-tos and directions and guidelines. It's all the same. I don't think it's wise to make the conclusion that coaching isn't the way, because that's just kind of taking my words and believing them. And I don't think it's wise to believe me. These things are presented, and they are presented as truth. You don't have to believe it, but I think it's wise to sort of put it through your own machinery, so to speak, and see the truth behind it and examine it through one's own lens, instead of just taking it at face value. If one sees through it, and if one sees the holes in coaching and how it cannot lead to greatness in a human being, then he will be open to the realization, not to the recommendation, but to the realization that it is only the truth. It is only one's natural talents that come to the fore that take him to the top of the mountain. And truth lies not in coaching a human being, but to returning him to his native self.
Is becoming great a choice or just something within you?
It's not. That question has no answer. It is whatever it is for you. If it isn't within you, then it would be a choice, and then you would chase it. If it isn't a choice and it's already within you, then it's already within you.
So if I don't know if it's in me, then it's not.
Well, if you don't know that it's in you, but the desire is still there, then maybe there's something there.
So you wrote, what is the truth about disseminating truth? The truth is that truth has to be withheld rather than democratized. Because the moment a decision is made to democratize it, a more subtle and powerful decision is also made, which goes unnoticed. The decision to reduce it into understandable terms. So my question is, if, the problem in being effective is that the only loudspeaker that's out there is society's loudspeaker. And most humans are not exposed close to the truth. Why in your discourse did you write that the decision to reduce it into understandable terms is not the truth?
I don't remember what I write, but it sounds proper. The truth is that the truth isn't for everyone. In fact, on a native level, the truth is for everyone. But on a practical level, no one's really seeking the truth. Therefore, it falls on deaf ears. And so it needs to be withheld, because if it is not withheld and it is showered upon deaf ears, it's a waste of time. So when it is released, it is only for a very, very small number of human beings in the world. And for those who it's for, it deeply resonates. And it's almost like it's almost fatalistic to some degree, according to one's DNA, to receive truth, for him to come across and have the occasion to receive it. Human beings have different DNA, and not genetic DNA, but how they're wired. And a particular human being who is desperate for something, through his desperation, he generally will have the occasion upon which he intersects and comes and is given the opportunity to receive the thing he is genuinely desirous of. The definitions are created by society. And so any definition that is created is basically always done through a cosmetic lens. So the self-awareness is turned into this, in what might have begun as a pure, genuine, and effective term, has become, like all things in society, bastardized. And now it belongs to the empty halls of spirituality and self-help.
Do you think that parents make mistakes when they're bringing up their children? Do you think that they overcoach them or they overparent them?
Well, they really have no choice, because every human being has been subject to extraordinary and complete and irreversible conditioning. So a parent isn't some god that had a child. The parent isn't the Buddha. Parent is a normal human being who had a child, and therefore all that he does naturally, through not necessarily any fault of his own, he parents through his state of conditioning. Therefore, it can't be any other way than what you mentioned. First of all, I don't know where to begin. There is no meaning in life. Life has no purpose. Number two, coaching will teach you exactly that actually it does have purpose, and therefore it will lead you astray. Number three, don't believe anything that I just said, because you have to be ready to hear it. You have to have had the inkling on your own. You had to have seen it for yourself, at least to a certain degree. You had to have made a tear in the curtain on your own. It isn't about me telling you that coaching is useless and therefore you believing it and going on your way. The only thing that actually works in life, and the only thing that is worthy of pursuing in life, is the truth. And coaching never gives you the truth. Coaching only gives you prescriptions. Well, the only way to get to truth, firstly, is to have the DNA to devote oneself to the truth. And if one devotes oneself to the truth, not by matter of action or intent, but because it is in them to do so, then they will generally come upon the occasion in which they intersect with the truth.
Right.
They'll intersect with things that give them the truth. And that can never be found through someone coaching someone, prescribing to someone. Well, there's no active preparation. You either have the DNA for it or not. It deeply resonates with someone or not. It is actually in them or not. If they use the truth as a clever journey in order to arrive at some pleasure or intellectual knowledge, it won't benefit them. All things are based upon sincerity, and sincerity is not good. It is simply present or it's not. All things are based upon seriousness. All things are based upon genuineness. All things are based upon devotion. There are no ways to fake it. You can fake materialistic things. You can fake coaching. You can fake prescriptions left and right. You can fake climbing the ladder and business development and leadership coaching and skills and going to conferences and hiring a business coach or going with a mentor. That can be faked all day long. That's what everybody does. But you can't fake a devotion to truth. Because
Right.
you can't fake nature. The coaching, the faultiness of the coaching isn't the words. It's the fact that it is founded upon prescriptions. So someone could mime the prescriptions to you. There don't need to be any words. But there is no coaching in the world today anywhere. Not in spirituality, not in mentorship, not in the world of business, not in the world of professional sports, not in the Olympics, not anywhere in the world that is not founded in every possible way upon prescription. Therefore, it is false. There's no need to let it flow in and out, and there's no reason to get back to it. And it has nothing to do with what I would say to so-and-so, because I could say whatever I want. It's what the person is genuinely in search of. It isn't about what I say. First of all, it's not me. Truth is the most powerful thing in the universe. It's uncompromising. It doesn't play games, and it has no interest in being liked, and it is not interested in popularity contests, and it doesn't give a damn about anything. So the truth is a dart to the heart. So how do I know these things? I don't know. I don't carry around the knowledge.
No, I'm sorry. More importantly, is it common for people to respond?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I've seen on a quite regular basis, it tends to expose people without, there's no intent on my part to expose anyone, but it tends to send a shockwave through people. I've seen really, really dramatic effects of the truth upon people, and none of that is me. It's just the power of the truth. So the answer to your question is a resounding yes.
To consume, to reproduce, and then to die. And I was kind of okay with that, because I'm a numbers guy, engineering background. But I felt like as I got older, it was a bit empty. And then I added a fifth element, and it was to enjoy myself, in that journey. And so that's the kind of, I guess, stark, truth, reality that I've sort of arrived at in midlife now.
Do you have a question about coaching?
Yeah. Like you said, you just got to find your own way, it seems like.
I don't know. Is there a question there?
Does that seem like the right way to figure out?
It's a very general and foundationless sort of conclusion. You kind of find your own way. I don't know what that. Yeah, I suppose you do, but there's no teeth to that statement. It really is about understanding, if one wishes to understand, that one cannot be coached into anything of any significance, of any form of greatness or ultimate reality. Now you can try to find your own way, and quite honestly, that's not going to work either. The only way that's going to happen is through the truth. And so when you mention and when you end with a statement which says you got to find your own way, that is basically taking the jargon of how that statement is used in society. I'll just go try this and that and see what sticks. And that doesn't work. And so that's what you mean by find your own way. And that's why it has no teeth, because it's not going to work. You can try all kinds of things and they're not going to work. In other domains, you could try 100 things and some will work. But in this domain, you can't, because all your own ways, you have no your own ways. The only ways that you know are the ways that you've been conditioned into prescribing. So that the various things that you're going to try, they're all going to be prescriptions. So you can try to find your own way, but you won't. There's no starting point. There's no finding your own way. all of the questions that you ask, that human beings ask, come from the same well and same source that they ask all the questions in other domains. But those questions don't work here. There are no steps. In fact, it is precisely this, which is the basis for all coaching is overcoaching. You cannot be coached into it, because a coach will take on someone who is unserious, because the coach isn't serious. A coach will take on someone who is not life devoted, because the coach isn't life devoted. So that nonsense doesn't work in this domain. There is no way. Either the desire, the genuine longing to devote oneself to the truth exists, or it does not. And if it does not, one is not bad. And if it does, one is not good.
I was wondering if you differentiate between coaching and mentorship.
No, there's other podcasts or discourses that I've done on mentorship, and I think I did a Clubhouse session on mentorship. It's all ineffective emptiness.
So, for example, a PhD student, like doing a PhD under the mentorship of a senior, like scientist, you still think that kind of relationship is not?
Well, the point is not that I think. The point is that you don't think. To you, that's valuable. And I think that is the take-home message for you. And that as long as, see, you think that's valuable. There's nothing that I can say, nor do I have any interest in removing from you your belief that that's valuable. The fact is, you believe it's valuable, period. There's nothing more to discuss. The communication can happen, but it is about the entry into the bloodstream. And the entry into the bloodstream is desperately in need. The absolute non-negotiable prerequisite for that is a host which has the DNA for devotion to that truth. So in many ways, it is far more about the receiver than the giver. I don't know what it is that I do.
Okay.
Once again, you could turn any word into any word you like, right? You can call everything that I'm telling you now that I do or don't do, you can call that coaching if you wish. You can call an airplane flying overhead coaching. You can call it whatever you want. I mean, you can take that definition and make it as wide as you wish. But if one is sincere, he will want to know, and he will want to investigate the truth behind it, rather than playing word games. So what it is that I do, I don't know, but I don't coach any. I don't know. Perhaps you misunderstood. I've never been mentored by anybody.
Okay.
But perhaps I mentioned that Buddha was a master and Jesus was a master.
Yes.
I mean, they were not my mentors, but they absolutely were masters. And the interesting thing is, if you once again examine that, is it not interesting that those who tend to become sort of teachers are the ones who were never taught themselves? So no one mentored Buddha into becoming Buddha, and no one mentored Jesus into becoming Jesus. But everyone seeks to be mentored and coached. And whereas if they had open eyes, what they would see is the source of those things, the first person in that lineage, was never mentored. Therefore, the only question that then remains is, what does one believe to be what he wishes to gain from life? What value does he hold his own life at? To become one of those, or to become a coached mediocrity? Those who stand on the shoulders of giants tend never to become giants themselves. So, but Newton is definitely a giant, right? I mean, look. Well, listen, I don't know Newton. I've never spoken to him. So to believe someone's words and never having seen who they truly were, I'm not here to tell you that Newton was coached or wasn't coached, and that's an example of coaching and not coaching. I'm not here to credit or discredit coaching throughout history. Okay, I don't know who did what. This is for the person. This is not for me to sell you a line. This is not for me to convince you of something. If you want to bring something into the thing which says, look, I have evidence and this person said this and coaching works, I would say good for you. There's nothing more to say. The conditioning is too powerful. It doesn't mean that you as a human being created by the hand of nature was not imbued with the potential to find truth. It does not mean that. It is in fact the opposite of that. You do have the potential to find it. But I am speaking of practicality, not woo stuff. What's actually going to happen? It is not going to happen. The reason it's not going to happen, I don't believe in encouragement. I don't believe in discouragement. I'm just saying what it is. The reason it's not going to happen is because in order to arrive at the things that you're talking about, which are very wise pursuits, and actually where you are now is where many people who achieve their highest aims actually end up. And that is not an uncommon thing. But for you to find the truth, the level of devotion would need to be so high, and the clarity to see the conditioning would need to be so high that it would be that which dissolved the conditionings itself. So I've been working with human beings, specific human beings for years, and, very, very highly accomplished, world-class, famous people. And after years, they are now beginning to see, as you mentioned, the clarity in all of these things. And that only happened because through a consistent and systematic exposure to truth. It wasn't because they found it, and in all honesty, it wasn't really because of me. It was because of the power of the truth. Well, the truth arising is much down the road. The real question is one's level of devotion, one's level of willing to do anything to get it. That's the real question.
And that's what arises, and sort of the last thing that arises.
Well, no, that's the first thing that must be there. Because without that, there's nothing. Without the sincerity, there is nothing. There is nothing that can be achieved. Especially in this way. There is no coaching. If you coach, you'll coach people into being mediocre. And if you wish to do that, you're welcome to do so. Greatest confusion arose on the part of everyone when I would not tell them the things to do or not to do. So I did things in a very different fashion, and there's really nothing that I can tell you about because it was very intuitive. But it wasn't based upon do this and do that. And especially in their profession, in fact, I tried to do all that I could to keep them away from the world of coaching. But it's a good question because at the end of the day, people have children and they want the best for them and they want to teach them the so-called right and wrong. But I think that the way to impart things is not through words. But through the way to impart things is not to want to impart them at all. Because in the end, the greatest fault of a parent, the greatest oversight, is to need from the child instead of resolving one's own difficulties within oneself. The problem is never between one and the other. The problem is always internal. Listen, if a child is walking towards the stairs and they don't know that the stairs, falling down the stairs can break their leg, if they don't know that, that's fine. This is not a rule. Once again, don't turn it into a rule that I cannot retrieve the child from the stairs because that will be coaching. You can't turn it into a rule. It is about understanding the essence of what is being said if one wishes to understand. It isn't about giving oneself a black mark because they coached. It is not about creating rules. Don't coach isn't a rule. It is about understanding the essence of it. And if one understands the essence of it, then they will find their own way because they have understood, because it means something to them, because it provides a form of effectiveness for them, not because it's a good thing to do. You have no idea. You have no idea what a bad business is. You have no idea. No one knows what's going to happen. So everyone's experience is based upon, this happens a lot in ethnic countries. This happens a lot in India. This happens a lot, all over the East, which is, well, I think you should do this and it's all based upon past experience. It's all based upon hearsay. The parent doesn't know anything. The parent is an idiot. The parent has had a very limited, narrow lens life experience. And if a human being is devoted to something, the person who tells them there's not any money in it, or it's a bad business, or it's a wrong thing to do, is speaking from the sense of average commonality. And to try to promote and to shower and dissipate one's commonality upon his children is virtually a crime.